Yeah, thank you very much. It's really great to be here. So I'm part of the Focus E15 campaign. I just thought I would start tonight by just giving a few facts about the housing crisis, because it is an emergency that we are facing, really, it really is. There are 93,000 children at the moment in this country living in temporary accommodation. Now, we've just heard very eloquently from Zita what that means to live in temporary accommodation, what that means to access schools, having to move around all the time and having an uncertain future. The use of temporary accommodation to house homeless families has actually risen by 23% in the last 5 years. And I just can't get my head around this stat, but in London, the use of bed and breakfast accommodation has risen by 1,500%. Okay, so that is the kind of emergency that I am seeing every week with the campaign on the streets of Stratford when we are out on our weekly street stall. Over half of households that are homeless are single parents, and we've heard again from the panel that that will be affecting women more. And women from minority ethnic black backgrounds, black women, make up a third of that total. So it is affecting the most vulnerable people in our society. And also the eviction rate, it's almost over 100 people every single day in this country are being evicted. So it's against that backdrop. I want to take you back 2 years ago when the Focus E15 campaign burst into life in Newham. Now, Newham, in case you don't know or can't remember, that was the home of the Olympics, right? Where over the course of that time, £9 billion was spent in that borough, okay? And in the heart of Stratford, there is a hostel for young people, and that hostel is called Focus E15. All the people are single people, but there was also a mother and baby unit as part of that hostel where there was 29 mothers. They had a funding cut. Newham is a Labour council, it's a Labour mayor, Labour MP. They cut the funding to the most vulnerable group of people, you know, within their borough. So the mother and baby unit was under threat, under direct threat from austerity, from funding cuts. And they were all meant to be supported. They all had key workers, but out of the blue, with no support whatsoever, the mothers get eviction notices through their doors, okay? Now, these are young people with children who are all in a hostel for reasons such as domestic violence, abuse, breaking down with the family, all sorts of complex reasons why they are in a hostel with their children. And what the council was proposing to do in cahoots with their housing association, East Thames, was to pick up these young people and place them far away from everything they know. It is a recipe for disaster. So they were going to, already as the campaign began, their friends were being sent to Manchester, Hastings, Birmingham, Scotland. So the mothers decided to get organised, and their first demand was for social housing, not social cleansing. So they got together to see what they could do. They started a petition. They went down to the local mayor, Robin Wales, again Labour, who told them, well, if you can't afford to live in Newham, you can't afford to live here. But they did not deter. So they were very organised, they were very united. There was a strength in the campaign because it was affecting 29 young mums. And what they decided to do was to have an occupation of East Thames. There was a show flat in East Thames, which they kind of realised was actually bigger than where they were living. So they thought, you know what, we're going to have a children's party. There's no room in the flats where we are, well, these rooms really, not even flats, in the hostel. We're going to go there and we're going to occupy with fun, with humour. A campaign was born around it. The press was called, and that made local news straight away. So the mums were very determined to make sure that the actions that they took to take direct action and to target the sort of local power structures in Newham. But they were also really determined to have fun, to be vibrant, and that really attracted a great deal of support. So very quickly the campaign was supported by other feminist groups, socialist groups, communists, anarchists, and together the campaign began to grow. And this time last year, the campaign really shot into the media spotlight by the occupation of the Carpenters' estate. Now, the Carpenters' estate is again in Stratford. It's right opposite the Olympic Park. It's been empty 6 or 7 years at a loss of revenue to the council of over £9 million, because we did a freedom of information request, and that's how much the council has lost in rent and council tax in that time while this estate has been boarded up. And the occupation of this estate really showed the terrible irony of, you know, the council sending people out of the borough while keeping their council housing boarded up. It really was really disgusting, and the mums couldn't believe it when they finally got into these flats, these 4 flats on the estate, what amazing condition they were in. They pressed the light, there was light. They turned the tap, there was water. There was hot water. There'd been a brand new kitchen, not, you know, 5 years put in, that was left untouched. So the campaign took militant action, it took direct action, and it continues to organise on a regular basis on the street. Being on the street in a regular way, you're in touch with what people are going through. So we are meeting people every single week in desperate housing need, refugees, single mums, all sorts of people on the streets who are beginning to gravitate towards our campaign, trying to find out what they can do. Obviously the campaign can't help everybody, but what we are using the campaign for is to highlight the sort of emergency of the housing crisis, and to suggest to people that if they organise and take action, change can come. And just about that change, it was through the strength of the campaign that all the mums got rehoused locally. So, you know, their eviction notices were quickly and very hastily revoked, and they all got found places locally, albeit in 1-year contracts. But that is a partial victory. It's much better for those young people to stay near their support and their families. So that was one success. And when the campaign occupied the flats on the Carpenters, the mayor was forced to issue an apology, and 40 people were rehoused back on the estate. So there is, you know, now is the time really to start coming together, to start supporting campaigns, to start forming campaigns in your local area, and get together and take direct action.